Bobby, how are you?
I'm doing swell. How are you, Kurt?
Doing great.
How was your celebration last night?
I thought it was a really good show.
Oh, yeah. It was great.
It moved quick, man.
Was it enough for you, Bobby?
It was. I had a nice time kind of watching, kind of not. I had friends over kind of at the last minute, but it was only like 4 or 5 people, enough seats for everyone. And it was such a beautiful day.
Yeah.
So to be inside and start watching it at 4 we couldn't do it. So we recorded it and then went to a rooftop bar, which was also watching, but we were able to sequester in the corner, watch the sun over the city, and then go back and watch it together from start to finish. But I was also hosting and making stuff, so I jumped in and out, but I did watch it.
Nice.
And I enjoyed it. The surprises were my favorite. The ones, like, I was happy Emma Stone won because I liked her a lot, and I really liked Zone of Interest sound.
That was cool. Yeah. I mean, they were both so good. I really wanted Lily to get...
Yeah, me too. I thought it was kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
Emma Stone's so good, though. It's hard to...
She's genius.
I know. It's like they both need an Oscar.
It's kind of strange that Lily Gladstone was not supporting actress, to be honest.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought Killers of the Flower Moon was the best movie of the year. Like, that was my number one.
Yeah.
She's a fine actor. I just thought Emma Stone, among a lot of other performances, were like sensational. Carey Mulligan, my God, she's great.
I would have lost my mind if Carey Mulligan won. That would have been insane.
I will not be seeing Maestro. I'm going to put it that way.
Do you hate her?
No, I don't hate her. I think she's kind of one note at this point, and I feel like Maestro is just kind of a actor pretentious nightmare.
Yeah.
That's what I enjoyed about it, though. It was like, when have you last seen imitations? You know, even Oppenheimer, like, he wasn't doing the Oppenheimer bit.
Yeah.
But it's like 2 people like really playing characters and imitations. It was kind of a throwback to performances that we don't get or like really consider fine-tuned or realistic. Like, it was hyper stylized, and I liked that. Controversial opinions. Here we go.
Yeah, Maestro got nothing.
Yeah.
I assumed Killers of the Flower Moon would get nothing because Scorsese has a record of being nominated for 10 Oscars and losing all of them.
Yeah.
As in that happened in one night?
Yeah, he does. This is his like 3rd or 4th time that's happened to him.
Wow.
The Academy does not like him.
Yeah, I mean, clearly, if that keeps happening.
They like nominating him.
Yeah.
But
I was embarrassed that I didn't expect The Zone of Interest to win Best Sound. As soon as it did, I was like, oh yeah, no shit. That whole movie is just...
Yeah.
And I told so many people to go see it specifically in a theater for the sound because I thought it was a standout tenet of the movie.
I really like that movie, but that really does seem to be its strength at that point.
It was a fun upset because I just assume Oppenheimer, because why not?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a fair assumption.
Yeah, overall, I was happy. I loved seeing Christopher Nolan win an Oscar. That was nice.
Bravo.
Game on, people?
Game on.
Yeah, I'm good.
Let's go.
Welcome to Physical Therapy. My name is Kurt.
And I'm Sam.
And I'm Bobby.
We're also joined by our wonderful producer, Kimberly. How you doing, Kimberly?
Doing great. Happy to be here.
Today we're talking some of our favorite titles released to physical media last year in 2023. I'm very excited to hear what you guys picked, but first, how were your weeks? What did you see?
I finally got to see Dune 2, which I very much enjoyed. I got to see it in IMAX. It was so loud. It was so good.
I saw on Instagram a video of like a 4DX screening of Dune 2, and it was hilarious. Like, the people were just shaking out of their seats. I don't think I could handle it, but respect to anybody who saw Dune 2 in 4DX.
I turned to my buddy after the screening was over, and I said to him, I feel bad for anybody else who was in this theater watching a different movie during this time, because the theater was just shaking the entire time. I can't imagine being in the screening room next to it. It must have been awful.
I actually went to see Problemista, that new movie, at an AMC, and went to the bathroom beforehand, and the bathroom must have been right next to a Dune room, and it was just... yeah, exactly what you're saying.
How was Problemista?
It's great.
Cool.
Problemista is a directorial debut, I believe, from Julio Torres, who formerly wrote for SNL and is a comedian. It's like a very charming, surrealistic comedy about a guy living in New York who is doing all sorts of odd jobs to try to basically buy himself time to get his visa extended. It's very funny, very creative, and features a Tilda Swinton performance that fits right along with all her other amazing work.
I love Tilda Swinton.
My local indie theater is showing it. I've been on the fence about going, so I will now go.
Yeah, I recommend it for sure. Bobby, what did you check out this week?
I went to see Love Lies Bleeding.
Oh, I really want to see that.
Yeah, can't wait.
It's the new Kristen Stewart thriller, hyper violent, hyper sexy. I don't want to go into too much detail because I went in not knowing much. Rose Glass's her debut was Saint Maud,
which rules.
A British film from, I think, like 2020.
A24, right?
A24. It's kind of body horror. It's psychosexual. It's really, really, it's fun.
I loved Saint Maud. Saint Maud is excellent.
We saw Kristen Stewart at a restaurant this week. Kim and I did.
Did you finally ask her where your Panic Room Blu-ray is?
I thought about it.
I had to correct someone recently who tried to suggest Kristen Stewart's debut was the Twilight series. And
no,
we all know that cannot possibly be the truth out there.
When they put the 4K of Panic Room out, people will finally know.
Heads will roll.
Has anyone seen Double Jeopardy?
Ashley Judd? Yeah.
It's Ashley Judd, Tommy Lee Jones, and who's her husband in it again? I think he's in the Star Trek remakes, right?
Yes.
Bruce Greenwood.
Yeah.
What a movie.
Great movie.
We watched the Paramount Presents 4K of it the other night and had a blast. It was a real rocket ship to the 90s.
I gotta pick that up.
I remember Double Jeopardy because there was a trailer for it on, I can't remember which movie, but one of the VHSs that was on like a regular repeat in my house growing up, there was a trailer or a VHS version of a trailer for Double Jeopardy, and I must have seen it 100 times, but I had never seen the movie, but it really felt like I had. There were like moments where I was saying the lines out loud as they were about to happen, even though I'd never seen it. So it was fun to finally check it off the list.
Oh, that was your first time ever seeing?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, cool. I watched it for the first time probably a couple of years ago, but I had a really, really good time watching it.
Double Jeopardy is about a woman who is convicted of killing her husband and then realizes her husband is not dead and has faked his own death in order to frame her and get some insurance money. So there is a law called Double Jeopardy where you can't be convicted for the same crime twice, and she goes to kill him.
Yeah, because she spends time in jail, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a really fun part of the movie.
What else, Bobby? Anything on physical media?
Not much this week. I dug through the archives to find a DVD of a Sarah Polley movie from the early 2000s called Away From Her. It's with Julie Christie. It's a Canadian film.
Yeah.
It's written and directed by Sarah Polley, but it's based on a short story by Alice Munro, who won a Nobel Prize, I think, after the movie came out. But Julie Christie's really lovely, and it's having just read the short story and seen how Sarah Polley adapted it. It was very impressive.
Sarah Polley was a child actor, is that true?
Yes, who worked with Bruce Greenwood, actually, quite a bit.
She also makes an appearance in Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead.
She's been working for a long time. She was in that movie in the late 90s that had, I think it's called Go.
Oh, right. Yeah.
She is the main person on the Go poster, isn't she?
Yeah.
We also hosted, Kim and I, a little screening of Magnolia on Blu-ray at our place the other night for some friends, some of whom had not seen it, and what a great movie that is. That's something that just gets better every time I see it.
Yeah, it's been a minute since I've revisited that one, but it's been on my list for a while.
It's just so impressive, the script and the pacing.
It's his third movie? His fourth movie?
His third.
Insane.
Julianne Moore is just like mind-blowing in that movie. And the music cues are so good.
It was a favorite of mine. I don't want to say growing up, but because I remember it coming out in 99 when American Beauty and The Matrix and The Sixth Sense and
Eyes Wide Shut,
of course. And being curious because it was like Tom Cruise being a dirty character or something. And I remember eventually seeing it and just loving it. And it was a favorite of mine for a long time.
A legendary DVD.
It really was, because it first came out in the folded box set.
It was like one of those like thicker DVDs, right? That was made out of paper, not plastic.
Yeah, it was similar to like Boogie Nights, Seven.
I was thinking Seven.
Fight Club.
Tombstone.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't revisit it, but I remember seeing the behind the scenes documentary on Magnolia. I think it's called That Moment. And it's, I don't know, 40 minutes, half an hour or something, just about behind the scenes on production. You see kind of the table read, you see the films he's screening for his crew. I remember that being just one of the best examples of a behind the scenes look at a movie. And I know that's also on the Blu-ray.
Is it? Cool. I'm going to watch that.
Where's the 4K, Kurt?
Where is the 4K? There's talk of There Will Be Blood.
I would love that. I mean, even Licorice Pizza. Did Licorice Pizza even get a Blu-ray?
Yeah, I got a Blu-ray, but not a 4K. I mean, give me Inherent Vice or give me Death. But I'm hoping that the rumors on There Will Be Blood are true. And maybe Paramount Presents would put that out, or even Criterion would be amazing.
Do we have any insight on why certain new movies are not coming out on 4K?
Like Poor Things?
Like Poor Things or Thanksgiving from last year, or I have a list of new stuff on my phone that I didn't buy because I'm waiting for a 4K to get announced.
I don't know. I don't know how that calculation goes. Poor Things really surprised me because it seems like the people that would be interested in purchasing that movie would be like interested in getting it on 4K.
Yeah.
I can only imagine it's a matter of sales. My guess is that the cost just doesn't justify the production or the projection, rather.
Okay, let's talk some announcements from the week. We heard about a standard version of the 4K of The Departed. I'm happy that it's not just going to be a steelbook. You guys don't like steelbooks, right? Neither of you?
I can't stand them.
No.
Why not?
I don't know. It's, the case is a little bit bigger, and not that I don't have bigger cases on my shelf, but it feels kind of cheap when it's like the exact same release, but just in a steel book that is like $7 more expensive. The same way that like a limited Arrow edition feels kind of special. I've never gotten that off of steelbooks.
The cases wear too. The metal, the steel, if you will, it wears pretty easily. Like you put it on a shelf and it's already got, the paint chipping off, or
it rubs off to that shiny silver.
Yeah, a lot of them aren't coated in such a way that I think it's getting better. I don't know. I don't go out of my way to buy them.
Well, you can get The Departed in steelbook or a standard release with a slip sleeve, it looks like. I think we should do The Departed on the show.
I would love to.
The other one I noticed was Crybaby is coming out from Kino Lorber in a 4K Blu-ray combo. I think it's 2 cuts of the film, a director's cut and a theatrical cut. That's a movie I remember watching in my teenage years when I thought Johnny Depp was the coolest person on the planet. But I, at the time, certainly had no idea who John Waters was. So I'm excited to revisit it with him in mind more than Mr. Johnny Depp.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun one.
Sam, there were like a ton of Severin titles. Any of them that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I bought their like March bundle package. I'm really excited. But the one that I'm most excited for is The Great Alligator. I don't know anything about this one either, but I love, love, love a giant monster movie. And, sign me up for any type of large alligator or crocodile or anything. So can't wait for this one.
We're doing something a little different this week. Instead of one movie, we're each picking 3 of our favorite releases from 2023. Bobby, you can kick us off with your number 3.
In my number 3 slot, I placed Arrow's release of Witness.
Nice.
Bobby, I almost chose this.
I know. This ranked high for me for lots of reasons. First of all, I love the movie Witness. It's been a favorite of mine for, I think, like when I was getting into Harrison Ford, and once I got done with his franchise trilogies and then some, I really enjoyed The Fugitive and Air Force One. I'm stating the obvious. There's a whole generation of people that grew up the way I did.
Did you see it young, Bobby?
I saw it on the older end of my childhood, I would say. So I would say I saw it in like middle school, 8th grade maybe.
Cool.
And Arrow does excellent work. They really rival Criterion. The presentation is beautiful. There's a nice hard outer case with a reversible sleeve plastic jewel case on the inside with the original theatrical poster artwork and newly commissioned artwork that's quite nice. The bonus features are plentiful. There's some new short featurettes that are pretty insightful. And then we've got archival content that I really appreciate. So it's a great release.
I got to be honest. I think those Arrow big boxes are some of the best releases on the market at this point.
Without a doubt.
So when you see something like Witness, for me, it was like, well, this is a no-brainer. I'm picking this up immediately. And I didn't own Witness yet. So great. It's a beautiful release. It's an incredible movie.
Incredible movie. Tell us what Witness is about in case people haven't seen it.
This is an original script from 1985, directed by Peter Weir and starring Harrison Ford as a police agent. And a young Amish boy and his mother are in Philadelphia, and the little boy is in a public restroom and witnesses a murder. And shortly thereafter, Harrison Ford, the police detective, is assigned to protect this little boy. And through a series of thrilling set pieces, he ends up hiding in an Amish community. And it's a really affecting story. It's beautifully done. Cinematography, the musical score, nominated for 8 Oscars, won 2. It's a classic.
Did it win Best Picture?
No, it won screenplay and editing.
Interesting.
Kind of similar premise to Kindergarten Cop.
Wow.
I was just going to say.
Wow. Inspiration begets inspiration.
I absolutely love Witness. I remember seeing it young, and that there's a murder in a bathroom that you mentioned. It just terrified me as a kid in the best way.
My mom rented this for us like early. I think probably because we grew up as a fugitive household. And so it was like a way to be like, hey, you guys like Harrison Ford? And I remember just sitting at my grandparents' house and watching it, and it being way over my head, but really, really liking it.
Great choice, Bobby. I'm going to go next because mine is also a Peter Weir film. I picked the second sight release of Picnic at Hanging Rock, Peter Weir's first film, early 1975. This is a movie set on Valentine's Day in the year 1900 and follows a group of schoolgirls on a field trip to Hanging Rock, which is like a remote geological formation in Australia. And several of them mysteriously go missing. And this is one of the most haunting movies I've ever seen. I saw it in college, I think, first, and returned to it every few years. It's just something that really gets under your skin, and there are no answers to it, but it's about girlhood and sexuality and colonialism, and sets this tone primarily through its score, a lot of which is like pan flute. They use a couple kind of, I think they're like Romanian classical pieces, and then there's some original score as well, but the pan flute specifically, it just, you'll never forget it once you see it. Bobby, have you seen Picnic at Hanging Rock?
I think it's Peter Weir's best movie. I just adore it. It has this very unnerving spirit to it. I think it's a really special movie. It's very weird, and it's very haunting in the way that L'Avventura, Antonioni's, breakout controversial 1960 release, where it's so ambiguous, and when characters just evaporate without conclusion or follow through, and the movie continues in really strange and uncomfortable ways, I just find it just terrifying.
It's massively influential on Sofia Coppola. And I think one of my favorite movies ever is The Virgin Suicides. And if you've seen both those movies, it doesn't take long to put that together. It's obviously very inspired by it.
I mean, just the look alone, really, of both of them.
Absolutely. And the young women and kind of the inaccessibility to their psychology to truly understand them. Both movies include men trying to do that, and they're incapable of totally getting through. And I think like that adds a lot to the mystery. But there was an interesting featurette on this disc where they talked a lot about Sofia Coppola, but then they also brought up David Lynch, and that's not someone I'd ever really associated with this movie, but particularly like Twin Peaks and the Laura Palmer disappearance, and sort of drawing comparisons between those two. It's got a lot of special features, this disc. There is a Criterion Blu-ray of it. There is also a Criterion 4K of it that is coming at the end of April. I took a look, and it seems like there are a lot of differences between the special features on the two discs. This is a 2-disc 4K, both of them 4K, but it's the director's cut and the theatrical cut. I think that the Criterion is only the director's cut. I believe that's how the old Blu-ray was. But yeah, picked up the second sight release in May. I only got the standard one. There was a gorgeous limited edition that came with the book and came with Blu-ray discs as well. This is just 4Ks, but that was a very high price point and I did not spring for it. But I recommend this second sight version, and I think the Criterion is likely to have the same transfer. I know Peter Weir and the DP were involved with this one and they were involved with that one, so it's likely to be the same. That version, the Criterion one, will be a little easier to find in the States, but I highly recommend checking out Picnic at Hanging Rock if you've never seen it. Sam, what's your number 3?
My number 3 also comes from Arrow Video. It is Michael Mann's Black Hat. By no means Michael Mann's best movie. By no means maybe a good movie. It's about a computer hacker who has to come out of prison to help the US government track down another hacker who is committing these acts of terrorism all over the world. The good computer hacker is played by Chris Hemsworth, and maybe one of the worst Chicago accents of all time. It's a pretty silly movie with some phenomenal action scenes in there.
It reminds me of David Lynch's Dune in the way where I had heard about them for so long not being good. So by the time I watched them, my expectations were so low that I kind of loved Black Hat.
Totally. I mean, you and I watched it together one night and we had a fucking awesome time.
Yeah.
We were cracking up.
But you're also talking to someone who thinks Public Enemies rules.
Public Enemies is a Michael Mann movie that I do not stand by at all. This is a 2-disc limited edition, which is not sold out as of yet. And disc 1 has the US and the international version on it. And disc 2 is only the director's cut on Blu-ray. Apparently, it wasn't going to be on the release originally. And then they found it and were able to get the director's cut.
Bobby, did you see Black Hat?
I did not see it. I'm admittedly not a Michael Mann fan. I think he's pretty good at best.
Wow.
Not even Heat?
Heat was never super important to me. Maybe I just need to revisit it again. I like The Insider enough.
Yeah.
The Insider's great.
How about Manhunter?
I do like Manhunter. I think it's good.
Here's a hot take. I think Manhunter's the best Hannibal Lecter movie.
I think Ridley Scott's Hannibal is.
Gary Oldman in Hannibal.
But that's the same story as Manhunter. No, I'm sorry. That's Red Dragon.
I like Red Dragon a lot. I think it's a great cast. I think it kind of works.
That just got a Kino 4K. Philip Seymour Hoffman, is he in that?
Yeah, I think he's a reporter of some kind.
Yeah. God, I remember downloading the trailer for Red Dragon from Apple iTunes at the time when you could do that, like download a QuickTime in like 260p or whatever, and just counting down the minutes to see Red Dragon when that came out. Could not wait.
We know you're a big Brett Ratner fan.
I have stories about that for another time, off the record.
Yeah. I have off-the-record Brett Ratner stories too.
Wow. Off the record. Can't wait.
We're so Hollywood, Bobby. We're so Hollywood.
I know.
Bobby, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is a bit divisive, I think, among this crowd, but I'd like to chat about it. And it's the JFK 5-disc.
Oh, no.
Shout Select.
Incredible.
Edition. And I know it has its flaws. And I'm doing this to have a bit of a conversation because I think this is an interesting talking point. For someone like me, this was a very fun grab because I think Warner Brothers released a Blu-ray years ago that's been out of print. And so this Shout Select, it's a hefty, kind of obnoxiously sized box set. It's a 4-disc set. We've got the director's cut in 4K and Blu-ray and a theatrical cut in Blu-ray only, and a 4th disc with special features, many archival ones that I really value, and some new featurettes, interviews. The thing I like about Shout is some of their retrospective interviews are meant to function and resemble those of Criterion's. But the subjects are those who participate in these conversations, I would say, are less polished than some of the archivists and historians and theorists. And so you get a lot of off-the-cuff, raw, hot takes from some of the talent and behind-the-scenes talent. And I would say this release is no exception.
I'll be honest, Oliver Stone is not for me.
He really isn't for me either.
I often send Kurt text messages about what I think about Oliver Stone.
Yeah, because
I don't necessarily need to say right now.
I knew this would be divisive.
I think JFK is a masterpiece.
I really do love JFK.
It's an incredible release. I only watched the 4K disc. I have not watched the other cuts. I'm not sure if I've ever seen the other cuts. I definitely did not see the movie in the theater. I did see that disc that went out of print. I'm pretty sure that's probably how I saw JFK for the first time, that Blu-ray from Warner Brothers. But man, what a movie. What a movie. What a cinematic experience and use of editing and just imagery colliding with itself. I don't know how you can make a movie like this.
I mean, Kurt, about 3 weeks ago to maybe a month and a half ago, you texted me and said, I know how you feel about Oliver Stone, but I do think that you should watch JFK.
Yeah.
And I'm intrigued to watch it. I've seen that box set in stores here, and it is, every time I see it, it catches my eye.
I love its presentation. I love how each cut is divided over 3 different sets.
So what is the cut to watch then?
The director's cut. It's longer, but I would say Oliver Stone enthusiasts would stand by his preferred edition.
To your point, though, like even non-enthusiasts, I think, Sam, I do mean that. I think you can appreciate this movie even if his style is not for you. Because there are some Oliver Stone movies that I like, but I understand.
Wrong turn.
U-turn.
U-turn.
Like Any Given Sunday, I'm a fan of that, but I would not tell someone who doesn't like Oliver Stone to watch Any Given Sunday. But JFK, I think, is just one of the great movies of the 90s.
I don't have a strong attachment to any of his movies, really. JFK maybe is excluded, but he always makes entertaining movies, in my opinion.
They move.
Yeah.
They're saying something, and you know it.
I don't know if they're saying anything, but they do move.
They do.
My number 2 is a limited edition 4K Arrow release, and it's Barbarella.
Nice.
Have you guys seen Barbarella?
I have seen it. I saw it maybe 5 years ago for the first time. It's fun.
I've never finished it.
This was my first time seeing it. This is a 1968 sci-fi starring Jane Fonda as an outer space government agent who travels to a planet to stop an evil scientist and his superweapon. This movie is a product of the sexual liberation movement. It's full of sex. It's got absolutely visionary costuming. My favorite part of the movie is the wardrobe. She changes outfits like 8 times, and it takes place basically in real time, but she keeps changing her look, and they're just so fun to look at. If anybody saw Zendaya on the Dune 2 press tour wearing like that plastic see-through dress, that is straight out of Barbarella. There's something very cheesy about this movie and the set design and stuff, but it has a very tactile beauty to it. Like, it's all very practical. They're shooting in stages and trying to make it look bigger than it is, but it's just really charming, and it's a very funny movie. It's full of evil queens and creepy kids and Jane Fonda just being so stunning.
That Arrow cover is so beautiful too.
I had heard this movie was fun, but I basically blind bought it because of how gorgeous the cover is. It's like this psychedelic original artwork of Barbarella, and then inside they have the reversible original artwork with the original theatrical poster, and then a very thick, beautiful booklet full of essays and archival materials. It has a reversible poster in it with the original and new artwork. Every time I go look at my shelf, it is the first thing my eye goes to. Every time, ever since I've put it on there. It's just so fun.
It apparently is, the limited edition Arrow is now sold out too.
Yeah, unfortunately, this is out of print, the limited edition version. There is a standard edition coming to 4K and Blu-ray at the end of April.
Yeah, they just announced that.
These limited edition Arrows are tricky. Sometimes I wait and deeply regret it. David Lynch's Dune being the prime example right now.
I'm literally searching sites right now to buy Barbarella, and I can't find it anywhere.
Kim, anything on Barbarella? We watch that.
One of my favorite opening sequences of all time.
Yeah, tell us about the opening.
So the credits are just this very strange astronaut that's completely unisex that starts to undress as psychedelic 60s music plays, and it's so sexy, and she's like, her gorgeous nude body appears out of this astronaut suit.
The astronaut takes its gloves off, and it has like beautiful fingernails.
Yeah, just ultimate beauty, like ultimate femininity is on display, and very sexualized.
And it's a very old-fashioned form of zero gravity. It's Jane Fonda's like lying down on a transparent piece of glass that's hovered above a set that's like tipped on its side and slowly rotating.
This was also one of the Arrow limited editions that had the original artwork that they sold exclusively on their website, which is not maybe as eye-catching as you were talking about the copy that you have on, Kurt, but a beautiful poster.
The Barbarella poster, the original one, is hand painted and gorgeous, and I would take either, but that's cool that they do that. Sam, what's your number 2?
This is a childhood favorite from our friends over at Kino Lorber again, and I'm choosing The Monster Squad. 1987, Fred Dekker directed. Fred Dekker and Shane Black wrote The Monster Squad, but it's about a group of 5 friends who have to do battle with basically the 5 universal monsters. So you have the Mummy, the Wolfman, the Gillman, Creature of the Black Lagoon, Dracula, and then Frankenstein's monster. I remember renting it when I was a kid. My friend came over that night. We watched it, and I woke up the next morning, and my friend was still asleep, and I just remember starting it. It was one of those movies that we would watch just a billion times in a row, and it was really hard to find for a long, long time. And finally, Lionsgate put out a Blu-ray of it, or excuse me, a DVD and a Blu-ray of it, probably in 2009. And then Kino just put out this 4K last year. The 4K looks incredible. It also comes with 2 extra discs one has a documentary about the whole cult fandom of the Monster Squad. And that's directed by Andre Gower, who's also the lead actor as a kid in Monster Squad.
That's cool.
So I watched that this week. It was a pretty well done documentary. But just again, as we talked about with Kino's transfer on Kindergarten Cop, it's just the film grain looks great. The movie sounds great. And it's just a really fun watch. That's 82 minutes. It's awesome, man.
It's a little higher price for Kino, I guess, because it has 3 discs. But yeah, I'm tempted by that for sure. We watched that when we lived together in LA, and I remember loving it.
Yeah, it's just it's a good time. And I mean, this is Shane Black right before he writes Lethal Weapon. Like, he's on the precipice of massive stardom. And one of the things they talked about it in the documentary, the movie went nowhere. And Shane Black, I think, in the documentary says, had we waited 2 months, it would have been the biggest movie. Lethal Weapon was such a massive success for him that all they would have had to say is, from the writer of Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, great pick. Bobby, what's your number 1?
My number 1 is Criterion's summer release of Pasolini 101, a 9-disc, 9-film box set featuring his films from the 1960s. And for those of you unaware of who Pasolini is, he is an Italian filmmaker, Pier Paolo Pasolini, and his films range from, controversial biblical adaptations to stories of the proletariat struggles and class division, bourgeois sensibilities. His movies are playful adaptations of Greek tragedies. And this 9-disc box set is, while it doesn't encompass the complete catalog, it is 9 films that I think are pretty elemental in his career. And a few of them have never been released on physical media before, so it was fun for me to watch those. A couple of them are already available as single releases on Criterion, various upgrades, 4K transfers. It's a great set.
Nice. Their sets are always so impressive when they'll be releasing a couple things, a la carte over the years, and then they'll just be like, here is every Fellini movie on Blu-ray suddenly, or here is 9 Pasolini movies.
It's a little pricier, as Criterion's are. I remember they released it on the eve of their website's 50% off sale.
Cool.
So it was one that I was eyeing, and I was able to snag it at a good price.
Nice. I'm entirely uneducated on Pasolini, but I will keep it in mind.
He did Salo. Did you ever see?
No, I'm aware of it, but no.
Yeah.
That was one that I got as a little kid, like way too early in life, because Criterion released it. And I was like, oh, I've read about this one. And then getting my hands on Salo, knowing it was the most controversial movie ever. Wow. I think I even showed my friends. I was so bad. Kurt, did I ever force feed you really dirty art house films that I stumbled upon?
No, I think you lent me Jacques Tati and I think Laura. You lent me Laura back in the day.
Sure. Citizen Kane.
Yeah, Citizen Kane. That's right.
Wow.
My number 1 is not directed by Pasolini. It is John Woo's Face Off.
Wow.
This was a Kino Lorber 4K release from this year. This is a movie that I had seen, obviously, growing up, and even in my early 20s, I think I had watched it again. But it was never really on my short list of action movies from the 90s. But I did get it and I watched it, and I thought that this movie was just stunning. I think that this is absolutely top 5 action movies of the 90s. I think that the premise and the way that the film sticks to its premise and the dedication from Travolta and Nick Cage and the fun they're having at playing each other and making fun of their own personas, the effects, the stunts. There is a boat chase in this movie that like had me on my feet watching it again. Beautiful picture quality, beautiful sound, just like banging sound. I watched this big and I watched it loud, and yeah, I highly recommend this movie or revisiting this movie. This is something most people have seen, I think, but
the boat chase is like the final set piece, right?
Yeah.
Incredible. Plus you get John Travolta rubbing people's faces.
That's how he says I love you to his family. He just like strokes their face. If I did that to Kim, she would slap me.
I think I saw it when I was a little too young. I remember enjoying it, especially the more practical effects and the shape shifting and that sort of charade. But your recommendation to revisit it is one I'm taking to heart.
Part of it, actually, now that I'm remembering, I had just seen Dream Scenario, and it had come out recently, and I had followed up seeing the film with a Fresh Air interview with Nicolas Cage, and in it he is talking to Terry Gross about his career and his approach to acting, and about how it was always very important for him to approach it differently than how he felt most people were approaching it, and his style being very inspired by like German expressionism and like The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, and like just doing these huge things on screen where most people kind of dial it down. And it's not that I never noticed that or liked that about Nick Cage before, but it was so fresh in my mind. And when he came on screen in Face Off, I was just so in on him, and I thought he was making me laugh from the first frame, and it's just delightful.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Nicolas Cage's introduction in that movie is him asking a waitress or a stewardess to suck his tongue, right?
Before that, he is dressed as a priest.
That's right.
And he is singing along to a choir of nuns, I believe, and walks through a line of the nuns, grabs one of their butts, and there's like a crane shot pushing down to him singing with them, bug-eyed, and it's just wild.
He's a great villain.
The premise of Face Off, by the way, is John Travolta plays a cop who has to switch faces and bodies with Nicolas Cage, who plays a very bad person, in order to find the location of an upcoming terrorist attack. But twist, Nicolas Cage also switches bodies with John Travolta and steals his life.
It's so insane.
It's fucking awesome.
I love it. The fact that it's those two.
I turned the TV on at work the other day, and we always keep the sound muted. And I turned the TV on, and AMC was playing Face Off, and it was funny because I could tell exactly where it was in the movie because of Nicolas Cage trying to act like John Travolta and John Travolta trying to act like Nicolas Cage.
There's great EPK stuff on this disc, and they show them on set together, and you can just tell that they really like each other and are having a lot of fun making this movie, which was nice to see. I also thought it was fascinating. They interview the writers, and they talk about how originally this script was like full-blown sci-fi, took place in the future in a fully science fiction environment. And John Woo kept passing on the project because he didn't want to do that. He didn't want to do sci-fi, but he was really interested in these characters. And they ended up stripping all of that away except for the idea that there could be this technology that they could switch faces and bodies seamlessly. And I love that there's like just that ingredient, really. Like that's the only really abnormal part of the world it's taking place in. I like movies like that. Yorgos Lanthimos kind of started out making movies like that, The Lobster and Dogtooth. But I feel like John Woo was right. And the thing he focused on and wanted to focus on was the characters and like the situation of these people swapping lives more than the concept of, the high concept of the action movie part of it. And you really are invested in the tension and the drama of these two guys, which is a lot to do with Travolta and Nick Cage having such a good time doing it, I think. But yeah, revisiting it, I found there was a lot more going on than I remembered.
Okay, so for my final choice, I chose the big box Wicker Man edition from Studio Canal. 1973 folk horror masterpiece from Britain. I had the final cut Blu-ray that came out a handful of years ago, a while ago actually at this point. And I wasn't necessarily sold on getting another edition of it, but when this came out, I saw the artwork and just my jaw hit the floor. It's beautiful. The big box, when you open it, it has like a pop-up book-like thing in it.
Cool.
Oh, wow.
Which is really cool. And then all the discs in it and the book and the lobby cards are all housed underneath that. The edition itself is just beautiful. It has 5 discs, I believe, and it has all the cuts. So it has the theatrical cut, the director's cut, and then the final cut, which I believe is the preferred cut to watch at this point. It also has a CD of a bunch of bands covering songs from the actual movie. And it took me a while to get that. I ordered it off of actually the UK Amazon site, and it got delayed a whole bunch, but when it finally came, I was so nervous. I thought it was going to be beat to hell and the discs were going to be flying around the package and everything, but it was actually packaged really well and shipped over well. I don't know what else to say about The Wicker Man. I'm assuming you all have seen it.
I have. I saw it for the first time a couple of years ago, and it's wild. I had seen the remake of it with Nicolas Cage. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, God bless Nicolas Cage. And
The Bees.
Yeah, The Bees. To finally see the original, I was very pleased how artful it is.
It's really weird, too. It's just kind of like a weird out there movie that's done with sincerity and it flows well. It's great. The music is very it can be very off-putting at times. And there is a weird sense of dread throughout the entire movie. And I say weird sense because it's like, it's so bright. It's really easy to look at.
The music is not also very indicative of what's really going on. It adds something to the tone, right? But it doesn't necessarily feel like a horror movie.
No, not at all.
You see where the inspiration, how it inspired Midsommar.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Okay, guys, before we go, let's put out some wishes into the physical media universe. We're each going to wish for a title on a format that it does not yet exist on. You ready?
Yes, sir.
I wish.
Adam's Rib on Blu-ray.
I wish for a 4K of Inherent Vice.
I wish for a 4K of Near Dark.
Nice. Sam, Near Dark. Tell us all about it.
Catherine Bigelow, vampire movie, Lance Hendrickson, Bill Paxton. I don't even believe this movie ever came out on Blu-ray, or at least it didn't get a States release Blu-ray. It's kind of hard to find, but if you can see it, it's awesome. It's violent. It's crazy. It's like a Western vampire movie. It's gritty. It's ugly. It's really cool.
Amazing bar scene. Amazing
bar scene.
Bobby.
Adam's Rib is a rom-com, Spencer Tracy, Katharine Hepburn rom-com from 1949. It's George Cukor, and actually written by Ruth Gordon.
Whoa, really?
Of Rosemary's Baby. Yeah.
Wow.
It's hilarious. It's about a husband and wife who are opposing lawyers in this legal case involving a married couple. It was released on DVD by Warner Brothers and included in some DVD box sets in the early 2000s, late 90s, but it's since gone out of print, and it'd be great to see a restoration, a Blu-ray upgrade. Perhaps it could join the Criterion collection along with their other Spencer Tracy, Katharine Hepburn screwball comedies, but it's a hoot. It's one of those classics that could use reawakening.
I'm surprised they don't have it on Warner Archives.
Yeah, me too.
Inherent Vice, folks, is Paul Thomas Anderson's 2014 neo-noir with Joaquin Phoenix. This movie is an adaptation of a Thomas Pynchon novel. It's incredibly dense. It is a mystery that is hard to follow, maybe doesn't end up making much sense at all, but it's just the funniest, zaniest live-action cartoon from one of our best living directors. It's a movie I have returned to many, many times and find something new to appreciate each time. I feel like a lot of people don't love it the first time they see it, but have a different reaction if they revisit it and sort of let go of the need to solve the mystery and can kind of just get on board for the ride.
That was my experience seeing it.
Same.
I sent that to you in a text. I started to really enjoy the movie once I gave up on the story.
Yeah, there's a ton of rich thematic elements to Inherent Vice, but it's not really about the mystery. I think it's about sort of letting go of that and seeing what else is going on.
There's so much happening in every frame. The textures, the behaviors, the ensembles. It's a lovely tribute to Los Angeles and the beach towns, Redondo, Manhattan.
And just gorgeously shot. It would just be such a colorful HDR 4K, grainy. Let's go, Warner Brothers. That's it for our show. Thank you all for being here. Please make sure to subscribe, leave us a review. You can also find us on Instagram at PT Movie Pod. Thank you to Patrick Laban for all of our music. Thank you to Kimberly for producing today's show. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you both.
I'll see you boys soon.
We'll see you next week.